head above water. I got 2 in the vehicle, one's assisting, the other one, female's halfway submerged. I'm in the water with her.
A dramatic rescue in Florida. A car partially submerged after driving into the water. The officer extracting the driver and then performing CPR. That driver is now in stable condition. The highly contagious Delta variant still surging across the country. Hospitalizations on the rise in at least 36 states. Almost every patient unvaccinated as concerned parents worry about their children going back to school. And new questions tonight about whether or not they'll be wearing masks when they return to class. The Olympic Games set to start in just 2 days as a new surge of COVID infections slammed the city of Tokyo. This as another U.S. athlete tests positive and is forced to withdraw from the Games. We're in Tokyo tonight. Fierce partisan fighting in the House tonight. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejecting 2 Republican recommendations for the Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The GOP fighting back, threatening to pull out altogether. This as Republicans in the Senate block Democrats from moving forward to debate the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Our teams are in D.C. to break it all down for us tonight. Apocalyptic scenes unfolding in central China. Torrential rain flooding entire streets, leaving dozens of cars stranded in the water. People on the ground swept away by the gushing current and passengers trapped inside subway cars. At least 25 killed and hundreds of thousands more displaced. From economic disaster to flush with cash, some states are reeling in a surplus of money. This after pandemic federal relief funds and a recovering economy boosted their budgets. Now some local governments are finding creative ways to dole out the cash.
Did you ever expect a year ago that you'd be able to just hand out cash to residents?
Never.
It's a post-pandemic world, and with online dating apps surging in popularity, it is clear some are vaxxed and ready to mingle. But one app is giving dating a new polyamorous spin.
I'm looking for Saturday night orgies and white picket fences.
Little risque story for you tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. So much for the past year really felt like Groundhog's Day, with daily surges in COVID cases, working from home, and of course limited gatherings. And now, even with vaccines widely available, we're once again experiencing that all too familiar pattern of surging cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, this time from that highly contagious Delta variant. Healthcare workers across the country pleading with Americans to get vaccinated, warning that those who are still not vaccinated remain vulnerable. And while breakthrough infections among the fully vaccinated are showing up across the country, so far most of those cases have been mild or without any symptoms at all. But it's the unvaccinated, including children too young to get the vaccine, who are now left most vulnerable by the Delta variant spread. This week, one family tragically lost their 5-year-old to the disease as states debate if they should require masks when children return to school. More on schools coming up. But first, ABC's Whit Johnson leads us off with COVID's latest surge.
Tonight, the coronavirus roaring back in the U.S. Daily cases tripling in the last month to more than 35,000 per day.
This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
And growing concern for unvaccinated kids. More than 23,000 new pediatric cases in the last week, nearly double the number reported at the end of June. In Georgia, the family of Wyatt Gibson says he was a healthy 5-year-old before he contracted COVID, strep, and staph, passing away on Friday. His father, a sheriff's deputy, writing on Facebook, "I have lost my best friend." Across the country, nearly 22,000 Americans hospitalized with the virus. Doctors in Las Vegas say they're reliving last winter's surge all over again.
They're so sick currently that the doctors are talking about doing tracheostomies on all of these patients.
In Alabama, Dr. Brittany Cobia says she's seeing healthy young people with serious COVID infections. Writing on Facebook, one of the last things they do before they're intubated is beg me for the vaccine. I hold their hand and tell them that I'm sorry, but it's too late. She goes on to say, after patients die, I hug their family members and I tell them that the best way to honor their loved one is to go get vaccinated and encourage everyone they know to do the same. They cry and they tell me they didn't know. They thought it was a hoax. The Delta variant now estimated to make up 83% of new cases in the U.S., raising questions about breakthrough infections. Officials in Provincetown, Massachusetts, tracking at least 132 COVID cases after the 4th of July, saying the vast majority are among those already vaccinated experiencing mild symptoms. While the vaccines have been effective at preventing severe illness, former director of the CDC, Dr. Tom Frieden, says we need to learn more about breakthrough cases.
Breakthrough infections are concerning, and that's why we need to look at who people are, where they are, and what they're doing. So if you've got an immunosuppressive condition, you're going to want to be more careful.
In San Antonio, the Shute family was fully vaccinated, but 4 out of 5 family members got breakthrough infections. Their symptoms mild or none at all. For that, they credit the vaccine.
I'm very thankful we got it. Thinking about how bad it could have been if we had not had this boost in our immune system, we could have ended up in the hospital.
Still counting their blessings and seeing the benefits despite those breakthroughs. Whit Johnson joins us now. And Whit, the former CDC director, says that more breakthrough cases are to be expected.
Lindsay, Dr. Frieden says as the virus spreads rapidly across the country, you will have more of these breakthrough infections as well. And while those who are vaccinated are much less likely to suffer from severe illness, you will have these incidents that are very rare of hospitalization and even death. That's why he says it's so critical for more people to get vaccinated to slow this virus down. Lindsay?
Whit Johnson, our thanks to you. And next to the renewed debate about how to safely open America's schools with children under 12 still not eligible for the vaccine and the Delta variant spreading. ABC's Kana Whitworth is in Chandler, Arizona, where school is starting back up and has this report.
Tonight, with millions of children under 12 still not able to get the COVID vaccine, a renewed debate over masks as the Delta variant spreads across the U.S. and students return to school. In Arizona, the Chandler Unified School District opening its doors today with no mask regulations in place, leaving that decision to parents. Jennifer Lewis's 6th grader, Kellen, is too young to be vaccinated and lives in a multi-generational household. She decided he'll wear a mask in school.
So you wish there was a mask mandate in place?
I do.
Yeah.
I wish there was.
I don't want to get sick and bring it home to my mom and my grandma.
Arizona is seeing a rise in daily infections. In Maricopa County alone, daily cases have increased nearly 75% in the last week. The state among 8 where lawmakers have banned districts from enforcing mandatory mask wearing, despite urging from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Still, families like the O'Briens say they welcome being able to make their own decisions about their 2nd grader, Addison.
If we're asked to wear masks, great. And if we don't have to wear masks, great. And as long as everybody's okay with that, we're okay with that.
So, Lindsay, Arizona's governor is also banning school districts from mandating quarantine for potentially exposed students. And that's something that has a lot of parents concerned, many of them signing an open letter asking the state health department to reinstate some of those restrictions. So, Lindsay, there's a real divide here in the community. Some appreciate the freedom to make the best decision for their families, while others wish there was a mandate coming from state lawmakers. However, in the end, all of the parents we spoke with say they agree they want their kids to do in-person learning no matter what, and so they will support the decisions, support their kids, and support the staff here. Lindsay?
Kana, thanks so much. Sticking with COVID now, but we go overseas to the Tokyo Olympics. Another American athlete has tested positive for COVID, and there are now nearly 80 cases inside the Olympic bubble. Meanwhile, COVID cases are at a 6-month high in Tokyo, where they remain in a state of emergency. ABC's Amy Robach is there.
Tonight, more athletes from Team USA benched by COVID-19. A beach volleyball player, now the 2nd American to test positive after arriving in Japan. USA Volleyball stating that in alignment with local rules and protocols, the athlete has been transferred to a hotel. Olympic competitions getting off to a muted start today. The IOC reporting at least 79 people in the Olympic bubble now have COVID.
Here in Tokyo, there are no signs, there are no banners. There's nothing that feels like this is a city hosting a worldwide event.
The number of COVID-19 infections in this area now up 155% from last week. The WHO Director General praising Olympic organizers for keeping the games going in the shadow of a pandemic.
The mark of success is making sure that any cases are identified, isolated, traced, and cared for as quickly as possible, and onward transmission is interrupted.
Still planning to move forward with those games. Amy Robach joins us now from Tokyo. And despite the rise in COVID cases, First Lady Jill Biden still planning to attend the opening ceremony on Friday?
That's right, Lindsay. The First Lady has landed in Alaska on her way here to Tokyo. The White House saying she is following strict COVID-19 protocols. And rather than meeting with athletes, Team USA athletes face-to-face, we're told she will be holding a virtual get-together. Lindsay?
And hosting the Olympic Games normally, of course, is a point of national pride, but these obviously are not normal times. What are you hearing on the ground there in Tokyo?
Well, there is a lot of skepticism and a lot of fear out there as COVID-19 cases are rising rapidly day to day here. This is a wildly unvaccinated population here in the country of Japan and specifically here in Tokyo. So there is a lot of concern about what may happen in the days to come. A lot of people fear here that the worst is still yet to come in terms of this pandemic.
Okay, Amy Robach, our thanks to you. Now to the surprising moments on Capitol Hill today. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy threatened to remove all of the Republican nominees from the Select Committee investigating the assault on the Capitol. This comes after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made the unprecedented move of rejecting 2 of those nominees. ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran has all the details.
Tonight, as Congress moves to investigate what led to the violent insurrection at the Capitol, Speaker Nancy Pelosi making a stunning and unprecedented move. Declaring the integrity of the investigation was at stake, Pelosi rejected 2 Republican congressmen, Jim Jordan of Ohio and Jim Banks of Indiana, handpicked by the GOP leadership to sit on the special committee. Pelosi said she had concern about some of their statements and actions. Within hours, House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy made his decision, threatening to pull all Republicans off the committee.
Pelosi has created a sham process. Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate.
Both Jim Banks and Jim Jordan voted to overturn the election after the insurrection, and Jordan has repeatedly attacked the idea of an investigation.
They just want to be partisan. They just want to continue to attack the former president. They want to play their political games.
In May, Republicans in both the House and Senate blocked an independent 9/11-style commission to investigate January 6th, which would have been made up of Republicans and Democrats outside Congress. Now, Pelosi says they're still moving forward with the Select Committee.
We have a bipartisan forum we can pursue.
Bipartisan because there will be 1 Republican on the committee, whatever McCarthy says. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach Donald Trump because of his actions on January 6th.
At every opportunity, the minority leader has attempted to prevent the American people from understanding what happened, to block this investigation.
Terry Moran joins us now from Washington. And Terry, the committee is scheduled to hold its first hearing next week. What can we expect?
Well, first hearing, Lindsay, next Tuesday before a committee of 7 Democrats and Liz Cheney, all handpicked by Nancy Pelosi. And the first witnesses will be some of those Capitol police officers who came under assault, suffered injuries, some of them hearing racial slurs in the insurrection. Republicans, meanwhile, they're talking about holding their own hearings to look into Capitol security, what went wrong with that. All this looks likely to divide this divided country even further. But it all begins, at least the Democrats and Liz Cheney, next week.
Right. Even this can't be particularly bipartisan. Terry Moran, our thanks to you. And on the other side of the Hill, Senate Republicans blocked Democrats' efforts to start a debate on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer changed his vote to no, aligning with Republicans in order to call this back up for reconsideration later. ABC News congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has those details.
Tonight, Senate Republicans unanimously blocking an effort to move forward on a bipartisan infrastructure package.
Collins, no.
Republicans say they needed more time to finalize a deal, but Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer took a gamble, forcing a vote to jumpstart the process.
Even Republicans have agreed that the deadline has moved them far more quickly.
Lawmakers have been working to reach a deal on a $1.2 trillion package.
How long are you willing to give these bipartisan negotiations?
My fear is that we could see a repetition of what we saw with the Affordable Care Act, where discussions went on and on and on and never went anyplace.
Schumer's gamble may have paid off. Some Republicans say they want a deal by the weekend.
And if there's a vote Monday, you will vote yes?
Well, we got to finish it, yeah.
Still trying to get it across that finish line. Rachel Scott joins us once again. Rachel, shortly after tonight's vote, that bipartisan group of senators releasing a statement saying they're close to a deal. Feels like we've been hearing this again and again, but perhaps we're getting there.
We have been talking about this for weeks now, Lindsay, and that bipartisan group says they have made significant progress. We know that they plan to work through the weekend on this to get there. And the president was asked tonight if he thinks that they will reach a deal. He was pretty confident, saying, yes, we will, Lindsay.
Remaining optimistic. Rachel Scott reporting in from the Capitol. Thanks so much, Rachel.
Thanks.
Now to the severe storms in the Northeast already moving up the coast. Heavy rain and winds came down in Alexandria, Virginia, and also here in New York. Some of the rain cleared some of the haze from the western wildfires that are still raging tonight. ABC's senior meteorologist Rob Marciano is tracking it all once again for us. Hey, Rob.
Hi, Lindsay. We have seen a little bit less in the way of smoke because of those storms. The strongest storms, though, as you mentioned, have been south of New York City and through New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and the Delmarva. We had a 64-mile-per-hour wind gust in Maryland today. Those storms now, for the most part, are beginning to move offshore. That front that spawned them, that will clear things out as well. And our air quality, which was poor and unhealthy in some areas today, as you see on the left graphic there, will be a little bit more improved tomorrow. Good and moderate air quality during the day tomorrow. So that's an improvement from all the fires that are burning in the west and all that smoke making it all the way to the East Coast. It's just remarkable. And we do have poor fire weather conditions again expected tomorrow, especially in the Northwest, where red flag warnings are posted. Excessive heat warnings remain up for Montana. So the heat doesn't help. We'll see dry lightning potentially starting more fires, and those thunderstorms that spark that dry lightning also create gusty winds. So those red flag warnings are up for any of those fires that have already started are going to be more difficult to battle tomorrow. And the flash flood watch out for the monsoon continues across parts of Arizona and New Mexico. We continue to track it all. Lindsay, back over to you.
But we did hear you use that word improvement, and so we will take that and like how that sounds. Rob Marciano, our thanks to you. And now to the severe flash flooding devastating parts of China, with several killed in a flooded subway system and dams and reservoirs swelling to warning levels as the region experiences some of the heaviest downpours in generations. Hundreds of thousands have already been evacuated to higher ground. Here's ABC's Britt Clennon.
Rescue efforts underway tonight. Flash floods in China's central city of Zhengzhou, killing at least 25 and displacing hundreds of thousands. This video from China State TV shows passengers in this subway car trapped, the water up to their chest.
The flood was too powerful, and people got washed away. Another person and I almost wanted to give up because we didn't have enough strength anymore. But my arm kept holding onto a rail.
At least a dozen people died in Zhengzhou's underground tunnels. More than 500 were eventually rescued. At least 7 are still missing. The fear, though, the toll from the floods may be a lot worse. Some family members outside of Zhengzhou making distressed calls on social media to find their relatives as power lines in the city went down. Heavy rains overwhelmed some of the city's flood defences, causing these apocalyptic scenes to unfold. Floodwaters cascading into this subway station. A resident seen being swept away by the water. Rescue workers putting kindergartners into plastic tubs so they can float as they're taken to safety. The city as it is now is completely impassable. Where roads used to be are now riverbanks. The floods also causing this massive explosion in Henan province at an aluminum alloy plant. No casualties were reported. Local forecasters say this is the heaviest downpour in decades, with nearly a year's worth of rain coming down in just 3 days. Floods are common during China's rainy season, but the threat over the years has worsened. Scientists blaming the effects of climate change and urbanization.
With a warming atmosphere, the atmosphere can hold a lot more water than before. You're having a lot more rain than you used to have. And it's just raining much faster than the cities and towns can drain out that water.
Zhengzhou is a city of 10 million and one of China's major transportation and logistics hubs. It connects the countryside to the rest of the nation. And the floods are threatening to disrupt the food and supply chain in the region. As recovery efforts continue tonight, President Xi Jinping ordering urgent relief efforts to minimize the loss of life and property. Officials warn the danger just isn't over yet, with more rain expected in the coming days. For those who are unable to leave their homes and are seeking temporary shelter, the Chinese military has sent thousands of soldiers to assist relief efforts, to deliver necessities to them and to help keep them safe. Lindsay?
Just some unbelievable scenes there, Britt. Thank you. When we come back, wearing a mask and handcuffs, Harvey Weinstein now back in front of a judge. Three's Company, the people flocking to dating apps to bring someone else into their relationship. But up next, trillions of dollars have been spent fighting COVID, and that's led to some states having budget surpluses. I'll look at what they are doing with all that money.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it.
Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, Michael Strahan. Wake up with America's #1 most watched morning show. ABC's
Good Morning America.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
ABC News honored winner for the second straight year with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news source. Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. Good Morning America, #1 in the morning, 9 years running. World News Tonight with David Muir, #1 in the evening with America's most watched newscast, 2020. The #1 news magazine on Friday nights. The View, the #1 daytime talk show. And ABC News Live, #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
The three largest drug distributors in the U.S., along with Johnson & Johnson, are going to pay $26 billion in a landmark nationwide opioid settlement. The companies have been accused of helping to fuel the epidemic that's claimed so many lives. More than 40 states are expected to sign the agreement. As the pandemic was at its worst last year, many state and local governments worried that the economic damage would be devastating as shuttered businesses and fears of dried up tax revenue would put a strain on already struggling budgets. But a year later, many states are now seeing a surplus of funds, thanks in part to generous federal aid and a recovering economy. So what are the states doing with that extra cash, and what could it mean for further stimulus from Washington? ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has this report.
In Alexandria, Virginia, the economic outlook was bleak when the pandemic hit.
Early on, it was catastrophic for us. Every week, unfortunately, I was getting a notification from, hotels, large restaurants telling us that they were shedding workers.
Mayor Justin Wilson says the city, like so many others reliant on sales and tourism taxes, projected a budget shortfall of up to $100 million.
There was so much of a not knowing when we would be out of this, not knowing when the next shoe would fall.
Fast forward a year, the dire projections never became reality. Instead, the city just passed a plan for how to spend an extra $30 million from the federal government, including a guaranteed basic income experiment, giving out $500 a month to about 150 families.
Did you ever expect a year ago that you'd be able to just hand out cash to residents?
Never, never, never.
It's a story playing out from coast to coast, thanks to generous federal relief funds, a rebound in consumer spending, and stock market gains. State and local governments that had predicted economic calamity now find themselves flush with cash.
We've also had significant federal assistance, both in direct transfers to state and local governments, but also just, pandemic-related programs that have helped jumpstart the economy.
Now, state and local governments are finding creative ways to dole out the money.
The number one plan was to get relief directly to our citizens.
The Cherokee Nation is receiving $1.8 billion from the American Rescue Plan passed in March. Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. says the money's going toward $2,000 stimulus checks for every citizen, plus investments in mental health, broadband internet, and a new hospital.
I think about my grandfather, a full-blood Cherokee, who lived most of his life in which the Cherokee people weren't even allowed to elect their chief. He probably wouldn't have imagined his grandson would be chief, let alone be the chief of a tribe in which the United States was sending $1.8 billion to respond to a public health crisis.
States like Maine and Alaska are planning to use some of their federal funds to support hard-hit fishing industries. In North Carolina, the governor is proposing allocating $30 million of its money to repair NASCAR motorways.
And so far, we are seeing that. A lot of states talked about how they were going to have to raise all sorts of taxes and cut all sorts of spending. And it didn't happen.
The Treasury Department says about $200 billion of the $350 billion in direct aid to state, local, and tribal governments from the American Rescue Plan has already been distributed. The money must be spent by the end of 2026. And unlike the previous two COVID relief laws, there are fewer restrictions on how state and local officials can use it.
There were states out there who kept telling the federal government, I really appreciate this money, but everything's underwater right now. And so by the time the third major piece of legislation came around in 2021, there was a big desire to give them that, freedom.
President Biden is now urging some cities to use the funds toward fighting crime.
Cities experiencing an increase in gun violence were able to use the American Rescue Plan dollars to hire police officers needed for community policing and to pay their overtime.
Meantime, 13 mostly Republican-led states are suing the Biden administration because they want to use the federal money to fund tax cuts, which is prohibited under the law. Arkansas is among them, led by Attorney General Leslie Rutledge.
It's not a matter for the federal government to decide Arkansas's own tax structure.
Is there a risk to cutting taxes with uncertain revenue going forward and uncertainty about the pandemic still?
Every family throughout the past year and a half has had to look at their own finances. Every business has had to look at its own finances. They don't all have government bailouts to rely on. And so I think the state of Arkansas, it's time for us to look at our own finances and trim off the extra fat that we don't need to tighten up our budgets.
Maryland Comptroller Peter Francho calls the federal aid to states and households a game changer.
We thought we were going to be bankrupt, frankly, in the summer, when we were predicting what the pandemic would cause. And instead, we had a relatively normal year as far as taxes.
But he says the funding isn't always going to the communities who need it most.
Some of it will be well spent. A lot of it probably won't be. And that's the nature of having a fire hydrant of cash come into the state suddenly.
Raising some questions about if the government should inject trillions more into the economy through the president's infrastructure proposals.
We can't keep writing blank checks my daughter will be 3 years old in a couple of weeks, and already she is going to be saddled with this sort of debt because of this irresponsible spending and just writing checks that we don't have the money to back up.
But if there are another $1 trillion or maybe $4 trillion in infrastructure packages passed, Is that calculating into your equation for how to spend this money?
Obviously, we hope that happens, but I think we always try not to make decisions counting on federal action because we never know.
And unlike the federal government, you have to balance your budget.
Every single year. Yep. Without fail.
Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
Got to balance that checkbook. Our thanks to Elizabeth for that. Still ahead here on Prime. The victim turning the tables, according to police, opening fire on two would-be robbers. What happened next? The parents who say their 4-year-old was injured by a Peloton treadmill speak out in an ABC News exclusive. And meet the new champions of basketball. We'll take a look at the Bucks championship by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day. And staying on the basketball theme, NFL superstar Aaron Rodgers has become an NBA champion.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
Squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
Hours, Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, Michael Strahan. Wake up with America's #1 most watched morning show. ABC's
Good Morning America.
ABC News honored winner for the second straight year with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news source.
Welcome back, everyone. The Milwaukee Bucks are now NBA champions after their 105-98 win over the Phoenix Suns last night in the NBA Finals game that gave them a 4-2 series victory. We take a look by the numbers. It's Milwaukee's first title in 50 years, the 5th longest title drought in the NBA since they last won in 1971 with Hall of Famers Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson. And they did it in front of 17,000 screaming fans inside the arena and an astounding 65,000 estimated fans in the Deer District outdoor watch party, many of them chanting their mantra, Bucks in 6, after they became just the 3rd team in finals history to win 4 straight games after trailing 0-2. The team was led to victory with 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks by their star Giannis Antetokounmpo, only the 2nd NBA player to score 50 points in a title-clinching game. The 26-year-old, known as the Greek Freak, capping off his 8th year in the NBA with the Finals MVP trophy, a long journey from growing up in poverty in Athens, Greece. But being an NBA champion is now all in the family for the 3 Antetokounmpo brothers, Giannis and his older brother Thanasis, and are teammates Giannis on the Bucks, and his younger brother Costas won a title with the Lakers last year, making them the first trio of brothers ever to become NBA champions. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. The gender reveal party that authorities say sparked a deadly wildfire and now charges. The bull that managed to escape the slaughterhouse and then ran wild in the suburbs of New York. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new video.
The breaking news overnight.
Emergency crews called to the town of Surfside.
U.S. airstrikes hitting targets in Iraq and Syria.
The stories people are talking about.
You don't want to shave your legs? Don't. I was going to say.
Oh my. Got it.
And what to expect in the day ahead.
ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. Good Morning America, #1 in the morning, 9 years running. World News Tonight with David Muir, #1 in the evening with America's most watched newscast. 2020, the #1 news magazine on Friday nights. The View, the #1 daytime talk show. And ABC News Live, #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
ABC News honored winner for the second straight year with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news source.
This is GMA3, what you need to know. GMA3.
A third hour of Good Morning America in the afternoon.
It's all about you. Lunchtime on ABC.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, the hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
House Republicans are now threatening to open their own investigation into the Capitol insurrection rather than take part in the planned one. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy angry because House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has rejected 2 of his 5 nominees, Indiana's Jim Banks and Ohio's Jim Jordan.
Pelosi has created a sham process. Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate.
The House Speaker issued a statement today saying Banks and Jordan would hurt the integrity of the investigation. Both men voted to overturn the election results on January 6th.
Now, Pelosi says they're still moving forward with the Select Committee.
We have a bipartisan quorum.
Bipartisan because there will be one Republican on the committee, whatever McCarthy says. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach Donald Trump because of his actions on January 6th.
At every opportunity, the minority leader has attempted to prevent the American people from understanding what happened, to block this investigation.
A potential robbery turned into a wild shootout near Melrose Avenue. LAPD releasing this video showing a car approach. 2 would-be robbers get out, a gun is pointed. But the victim is armed and begins shooting as everyone scatters. The 2 suspects were later apprehended by police, both injured from the gunfire with non-life-threatening wounds. LAPD confirming their identities, aged 22 and 28 years old. Now police are looking for the victim and 2 witnesses.
As wildfires burn in the West, felony charges for a California couple whose gender reveal party sparked a deadly wildfire last year. One charge is involuntary manslaughter for the death of a firefighter.
No wildfire can take away the love that Charlie gave me.
Refugio and Angela Jimenez pleaded not guilty to charges. Prosecutors say the couple set off a smoke-generating pyrotechnic device in a field and ignited dry glass on a scorching day.
They could face 20 years in prison if convicted.
In Los Angeles, a not guilty plea from Harvey Weinstein.
Weinstein was indicted today on charges that he sexually assaulted 5 women in separate incidents that spanned nearly a decade.
The disgraced movie mogul was extradited from a New York prison where he's serving a 23-year prison sentence on his sex assault conviction stemming from a New York case.
He is scheduled to return to court on July 29th. The mobile payment app Venmo, looking to better protect customers' privacy, it is removing the feature that allows strangers to view a user's payments. Moving forward, users will only see payments between friends when they open the app. Venmo's global feed has been the focus of privacy concerns. In 2018, PayPal, which owns Venmo, settled with the Federal Trade Commission for an undisclosed sum following complaints about the app's privacy controls of their transactions.
That 1,500-pound bull, remember from yesterday, it is still on the loose. The bull escaped yesterday morning from a farm in Manorville and has been spotted on several home security camera videos. And the bull was supposed to be sacrificed as part of the Muslim holiday Eid. An animal rescue group says its search team spotted the bull last night in Mastic, but couldn't catch him in the dark. Bull's owner says he is willing to surrender the animal to a sanctuary after it is found. If it is found, who knows?
Still on the list. Now to an ABC News exclusive. The parents who say that their 4-year-old boy was seriously injured by a Peloton treadmill speaking out for the first time after filing a lawsuit against the company. This comes after the machines were recalled back in May after being linked to dozens of accidents, including the death of a child. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has more.
It's a death trap.
Parents of a 4-year-old boy who suffered third-degree burns after getting pinned underneath a Peloton Tread Plus treadmill are speaking out.
Children should not be sucked under a conveyor belt that can kill them. Period.
Igal and Sarah Sadoun say they had dropped their son off with family for a sleepover. Hours later, their son was en route to the hospital in extraordinary pain.
When you saw your son in the hospital,
we were shocked to see the extent of the burns. My son was covered in burns. We're shocked to hear that a treadmill can do that to somebody.
Nearly 24 families like the one seen in this video have had children reportedly hurt by the Peloton tread. One child even dying of their injuries.
The fact that the Peloton has neither a safety guard or sensor, to me, is extremely alarming.
Peloton, come on, let's get this workout started.
The hugely popular wellness company surged in popularity during the pandemic as many turned to interactive fitness like the $4,300 Tread Plus treadmill. In April, the Consumer Product Safety Commission issuing an urgent warning about the Peloton Tread Plus, urging users with small children in their home to stop using the product immediately, saying they can become entrapped, pinned, and pulled under the rear roller of the treadmill. Peloton initially calling the warning inaccurate and misleading. Peloton later backtracking and issuing a recall. CEO and co-founder John Foley later apologizing right here on GMA.
We did make a mistake by not engaging with the Consumer Product Safety Commission in a more productive dialogue earlier in the process.
For the Sadoun family, it was too little, too late.
I read a statement from the company after knowing that so many kids had been injured, that a child had died, and still insisting that their product was safe and taking weeks to actually recall the product. That was when we decided we need to sue this company.
The lawsuit filed against the fitness giant claims Peloton knew or should have known that subject treadmill was extremely and unreasonably dangerous.
Part of what the Sadoun family wants is to raise awareness about how dangerous this treadmill is.
Do you think it was preventable?
Yes, we think a better, more safe, not defective product design would have avoided this child's injuries.
Our thanks to Eva Pilgrim for that. And switching gears now, you may have heard the term hot vax summer. Well, as more Americans get vaccinated, they are eager to get back on the dating scene and return to those popular apps or those looking for a little romance. But as Elwin Lopez reports, increasingly singles are not looking for one person to meet. They're trying to make up for lost time, apparently, and find two partners at the same time.
Rev Rucifer has found love, but is still looking.
Too hot to handle for the Brooklyn street.
Scrolling through dating apps.
25, too young. They pretty much open to anything.
In search of a second match to add to her existing one.
I'm looking for Saturday night orgies and white picket fences. Like... So right now, I am currently in a polyamorous relationship. I have an amazing partner who I love so much. We've been together just over 2 years, and it's polyamorous, and he's married and has a family and has 2 children.
After being cooped up, quarantining, many Americans are ready to get out and mingle.
As we're coming out of the pandemic and we're wanting to connect back with people and meet new people, I am definitely more open and curious about new relationships and new friend groups and all kinds of newness and seeing like what the world has to offer. I feel like dating apps do provide a way to find like-minded people because I can pretty quickly tell if you're going to be a kinky type of person that's going to be into what I'm into.
Throughout the pandemic, the number of users on dating apps hit an all-time high. The top 20 dating apps had a cumulative average of 17 million daily users, 2 million more than a year before, with one option in particular seeing a wild surge.
We had a threesome and I just never left.
Excuse me.
Did this conversation involve this?
The app Field says between 2020 and 2021, it has seen a 670% increase in singles listing threesomes at the top of their wish list. According to a study done by Kenzie Institute researcher Dr. LaMiller, that's also the most common sexual fantasy amongst Americans, with some 95% of men and 87% of women having fantasized about sex with multiple partners.
In our recent survey, we actually found that 52% of Americans, a majority, said they tried something new in the bedroom during the pandemic. And the people who tried new things are actually much happier than those who didn't. I think that's also part of where this interest is coming from in threesomes and being a little bit kinkier. It's just a way of interjecting that novelty to try and get the spark back in the relationship and keep it going.
Lockdown pushing some users to swipe for a very specific kind of love on apps.
We suppress sexuality so much that we never explore it properly.
Anna Karova's partner launched Field after she told him she was attracted to women. Now she's the app CEO.
It's impossible to think that sexual desire is not normalized already. It's a part of us, it's part of our bodies, and it's what we're all born with. So normalizing it is just bringing it back to where it should be.
The app encourages that normalization, and the pandemic, she says, served as its catalyst.
There's just been a desire to be honest. I think we're just, and especially younger generations and people these days, we're just fed up with lies.
It's referred to as ethical non-monogamy. For Rev, honesty is a big selling point.
Before I started having ethically non-monogamous relationships, I was primarily in relationships that weren't the best for me. I was often finding myself being the other woman and having people cheat on their significant others with me. I wanted the freedom to really allow relationships and dynamics to be what the best dynamic is for me and that person.
But these types of relationships go way back to pre-pandemic times.
I'm David. I'm Mark. I'm Ray.
They call themselves X9, X26X. After 3 years of a two-way love story, David and Mark branched out to add one more.
Some people wouldn't fit what we wanted. Some people wanted to break us up. And some people just didn't have the same mindset that we had in a way, so it kind of didn't work. So it was just crazy how we met Ray.
Now, with Ray on board, they have taken off on social media in hopes that all thruples are less side-eyed.
So I feel like now with social media, we have the power to let the world know, like, you know, polyamorous, being poly is actually like, let's normalize it. It's happening in 2021. People say, are you jealous? Because he's always Ray and this and that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like jealousy is kind of like a disease. So for me, I had to eliminate the whole jealousy. I have an open mind.
For Rev, the jealousy is of a different type.
I want my own husband. I want my own family. I want my own children. I know that's where my jealousy comes from, is that my partner has those things and I don't.
The endless swiping, a step closer to the goal of having a family of her own to add to the mix.
We live in a society in which that heteronormative, monogamous lifestyle is the norm. It is what we are conditioned to believe is the only way. But there are other ways that are natural, that do feel good, that can be supportive, that bring more love, more understanding, more respect. And that is what I think poly is about. It's about more love, not less.
Elwyn Lopez, ABC News, Atlanta.
Trying to spice it up. Our thanks to Elwyn for bringing us that. Turning now to the newly minted NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks and the superstar that brought them the first championship in 50 years. He spoke to our Will Reeve about his family, fatherhood, and what he did after the game.
Giannis, July 16th, 2014, you tweeted, "I'll never leave the team and the city of Milwaukee till we build the team to a championship level team." 7 years later, did you ever waver in that belief?
No, I kept believing. You know, I kept believing in the culture we're building here, the organization, the city of Milwaukee, myself, that we can do this. And 7 years later, as you say, we did it. You know, but it took so many people sacrificed in order for us to accomplish what we accomplished tonight. You know, and without the support of the city, like we had 20,000 people cheering inside, 25,000, 30,000 people outside cheering in every single game. That was amazing. And Milwaukee, this is for you, and we can't stop now. We got to keep getting better and do it again.
Have you seen the images of what was going on outside during the game?
No.
Let me show you this, man. It's like unbelievable. When I wasn't watching you, I was, look at this. This is from the top of the arena.
This is insane. This is more than 20,000 people. This is like
65,000 people.
65,000 people. Milwaukee, we did it! Yeah!
You growing up in Greece had to hustle. You had to grind for everything in your life. That's a long way from holding the two biggest trophies in your sport in your hand as a champion. How far away does that part of the journey feel now?
It doesn't feel far at all to me. It hasn't. Like, I feel it was just like yesterday, 8 years ago. You know, 8.5 years ago, I was, you know, we were trying to figure out where we're going to get our next meal from. We were struggling, but like all those struggles, man, everything we had to went through. See my mom and my dad struggling, and my brothers, like this, that made me who I am today. That made me like being so stubborn. Like I wanted this so bad. Like, the struggles and all that we went through, the challenges. That made me who I am today. If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be a champion. I would not.
It makes it sweeter, I would think.
It made it way sweeter. And this is the messed up part about me. I don't know, we've never talked before. That, like, this is great. You know, I'm happy that I'm able to live the moment, enjoy the moment with my family and everybody. But like, I'm already like thinking about, when can we do it again? Because like being a champion, playing this stage is addicting, and I'm trying to enjoy the moment. But like, I want to do it. You know, I want to do it again.
What does it feel like when the clock hits zero, the confetti comes down, this place is going nuts? You know that you've just accomplished something unprecedented, almost unimaginable, to win the way that you did. What goes through your mind and your heart in that moment?
I was thinking about my family. You know, I was just thinking about my family, like how much they wanted it, how much I wanted it, what we had to go through in order for us to be in this position. Like I had it easy. Like, you know, I had to do stuff, but I had it easy. Like what my parents had to go through, you know. And it was an amazing feel. Like still, you don't understand it's real. Like even now, still I'm like, is this real? You know, but like seeing, like when you see the people cheering and you're like, there's 10 seconds left to go, you're like, man, did we just won the NBA championship? Are we about to win the NBA championship?
You're a champion, you're a son, you're a brother, you're a father. What was it like sharing this moment with your son?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing, man. He doesn't know it. He's too young, but he pushes me to be great. You know, I never give up. No matter what the outcome is, no matter what the obstacle is, I never give up, and I always have in the back of my mind my son, because I want him to see that his dad was always playing. Like no matter if he make a free throw, airball a free throw, whatever the case might be, he kept playing. He never gave up.
When's the next time you're going to sleep?
No, I'm tired. I gotta go sleep. A lot of people say they're not gonna sleep tonight. Guys, after this, I'm out. I gotta go sleep. I'm tired.
Really?
I'm tired.
You're not going out to celebrate.
No,
you're
no.
the most beloved man in the entire state, let alone this city, and you're going to go to bed.
No. I'm going to bed. I have to stay COVID-free. And I'm tired. I gave everything. And I'm tired. My leg hurts. And I gotta get some rest. Tomorrow I'll celebrate.
This is 8 years ago.
Yes.
This is you.
Yes.
In New York. Look how you're like a little kid. This is outside of where our Good Morning America studios are. You see that kid, and then you look at yourself in the mirror now holding those trophies. What goes through your mind?
I can't stop. Like, I have to keep working, because that kid right there, he committed himself to the game, to his craft. He said he's going to keep working no matter what the outcome is. And this is the outcome, you know, 8 years later. So I cannot imagine what is going to be 8 years from now. I got to keep working hard. I can't stop right now.
Congratulations again to the Bucks. We did see Giannis on Instagram Live getting Chick-fil-A this morning, so I'm not sure that he got that sleep that he was planning on just yet. Before we go tonight, the image of the day. Brisbane, Australia celebrates after being awarded the 2032 Summer Olympics, but we just have to get through the 2021 games first. That is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Coming up the next hour, we're staying on top of several things. The rare joint press conference between the Defense Secretary and the Joint Chiefs. What General Milley had to say when asked about his reported fear that former President Trump was trying to manufacture a military crisis in order to stay in office. And as students return to the classroom, look at how droplets spread between students and what can be done to purify their air.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. Good Morning America, #1 in the morning, 9 years running. World News Tonight with David Muir, #1 in the evening with America's most watched newscast. 2020, the #1 news magazine on Friday nights. The View, the #1 daytime talk show. And ABC News Live, #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Now streaming on ABC News Live. 2020. True crime. Cinematic. Real-life drama. Stunning. The unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime. 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
We want to know how you say Good Morning America! Good Morning America! Can't start my day without GMA.
Now, with America reopening, we want you to show us how you say
Good Morning America.
So get together with friends, family.
Good Morning America!
Good Morning America!
And share with us at #MyGMA how you say
Good Morning America!
And you might see yourself right here on GMA.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart that he did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us. Hey everyone, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. No Senate Republicans, not one, voted on a test vote to push the potentially imperiled bipartisan infrastructure bill through. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer made the gamble to try and move it forward despite Republican objections and concerns that it was not fully funded. It's unclear what happens now, but we're hearing a deal is still in the works. A judge ruled that victims and families who suffered losses in the collapse of the Champlain Tower South building will get a minimum $150 million in compensation. That includes insurance on the building and the expected proceeds once the property where the structure stood is sold. It does not account for the numerous lawsuits filed from the June 24th collapse that killed at least 97 people. And some sad news in the sports world. Legendary Florida State coach Bobby Bowden has revealed he's been diagnosed with a terminal condition. The 91-year-old would not say just what the illness is, but said, quote, "I'm at peace." He won 2 national championships during his 44-year career. Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. Nearly every state in the U.S. is seeing a surge of new cases. Some local officials now imposing COVID restrictions again to help slow the speed and help hospitals feeling the strain. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest.
As the Delta variant races across the country, now estimated to account for 83% of all new COVID-19 cases, health officials are keeping a close eye on so-called breakthrough infections.
They said, "You're positive." I was shocked.
The entire Shute family of Texas fully vaccinated and still coming down with the virus.
Thinking about how bad it could have been if we had not had this boost in our immune system.
Experts say these cases are normal and expected, and that symptoms are usually mild.
We're going to see breakthrough infections when there are large outbreaks happening overall. But the good news is people are not getting hospitalized. People are not dying if they've been vaccinated.
And there are more positive test results in the unvaccinated. The country averaging more than 35,000 cases per day, up nearly 60% in the last week.
And a majority of the patients are coming through the door unvaccinated.
Many local officials doubling down on COVID-19 rules once again. Kansas City now requiring everyone to mask up in public schools regardless of vaccination status.
Getting the masks on, although they're not always the most comfortable thing, they are what's going to keep us safe.
The same order for Clark County Commission employees in Nevada.
We can't afford to allow hospitals to become even more worse in terms of their crowding.
But lawmakers in at least 8 states have banned mask mandates in schools. Researchers with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia hope this new surge in cases helps persuade those who are on the fence about getting vaccinated to get their shots once and for all. If not, they say we can expect larger and more sustained resurgences throughout the fall and winter. Lindsay?
So many of those convincing campaigns underway. Rena, thank you. There were some fiery moments on Capitol Hill today. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy threatened to remove all of the Republican nominees from the Select Committee investigating the assaults on the Capitol. This comes after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made the unprecedented move of rejecting 2 of those nominees. ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran has all the details.
Tonight, as Congress moves to investigate what led to the violent insurrection at the Capitol, Speaker Nancy Pelosi making a stunning and unprecedented move. Declaring the integrity of the investigation was at stake, Pelosi rejected two Republican congressmen, Jim Jordan of Ohio and Jim Banks of Indiana, handpicked by the GOP leadership to sit on the special committee. Pelosi said she had concern about some of their statements and actions. Within hours, House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy made his decision, threatening to pull all Republicans off the committee.
Pelosi has created a sham process. Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate.
Both Jim Banks and Jim Jordan voted to overturn the election after the insurrection, and Jordan has repeatedly attacked the idea of an investigation.
They just want to be partisan. They just want to continue to attack the former president. They want to play their political games.
In May, Republicans in both the House and Senate blocked an independent 9/11-style commission to investigate January 6th, which would have been made up of Republicans and Democrats outside Congress. Now, Pelosi says they're still moving forward with the Select Committee.
We have a bipartisan quorum.
Bipartisan because there will be one Republican on the committee, whatever McCarthy says. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach Donald Trump because of his actions on January 6th.
At every opportunity, the minority leader has attempted to prevent the American people from understanding what happened, to block this investigation.
Terry Moran joins us now from Washington. And Terry, the committee is scheduled to hold its first hearing next week. What can we expect?
Well, the first hearing, Lindsay, next Tuesday before a committee of 7 Democrats and Liz Cheney, all handpicked by Nancy Pelosi. And the first witnesses will be some of those Capitol police officers who came under assault, suffered injuries, some of them hearing racial slurs in the insurrection. Republicans, meanwhile, they're talking about holding their own hearings to look into Capitol security, what went wrong with that. All this looks likely to divide this divided country even further. But it all begins, at least the Democrats and Liz Cheney, next week.
Right. Even this can't be particularly bipartisan. Terry Moran, our thanks to you. Next, we go to the Pentagon. At a rare joint press conference with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley, where General Milley asked about reports in a recently published book that he feared former President Trump would manufacture a military crisis in order to stay in office. Here's ABC's Martha Raddatz.
Today, in his first appearance after reports that Milley was deeply worried about a coup attempt to keep President Trump in office and the disturbing rhetoric swirling around him, referring to some hardcore Trump followers as Nazi brown shirts, General Milley would not talk specifics, but neither did he deny the reports.
All of us in uniform, we take an oath to a document, an oath to the Constitution of the United States.
Last year, Milley publicly apologized after walking across Lafayette Square with President Trump after Black Lives Matter protesters were forcibly cleared from the area, saying it left the impression the military was involved in domestic politics, today reiterating his concerns.
And our oath is to the Constitution, not to any individual at all. And the military did not and will not and should not ever get involved in domestic politics. We don't arbitrate elections.
And by his side today, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who, while in uniform, served with Milley for decades.
I'm not guessing at his character. He doesn't have a political bone in his body.
Not a political bone in his body. Martha Raddatz joins us now. Martha, you've covered these top generals for years at this point, and for the most part, they tend to stay out of politics as much as they can while in uniform. So have General Milley's reported concerns about former President Trump after the election come as a surprise?
Not at all, actually, Lindsay. And I think he had every opportunity today to deny those reports, to deny those reports in the books that will soon be out. And he did not do that. He just simply, once again, said he took an oath to the Constitution, not an individual. And I do know, after talking to many people, that Chairman Milley was concerned during that period after the election. And there were also concerns about Iran and whether Donald Trump would take a strike on Iran. I know that General Milley talked to him about what the outcome of something like that would be.
And you're, of course, recently back from Afghanistan, and General Milley today also discussed the deteriorating situation there. What did he have to say?
You know, he revealed some surprising statistics. I know we've heard a lot of statistics about how many districts the Taliban has taken over, and the last time that we checked, it was about a third of the districts. Today, General Milley revealed that the Taliban now controls more than half of the districts in Afghanistan. He also said there was a possibility that they could take complete control of the country, although he said there are many possibilities, and the end game is not yet written. Indeed, it has not been, Lindsay.
Right. It seems like it's getting worse by the day. Martha Raddatz, our thanks to you. You bet. Now to the friendly skies, or so we thought. The FAA is sounding the alarm on violence and aggression in our nation's airports and onboard flights. As summer travel takes off, the FAA reporting nearly 100 incidents in its latest weekly update, and at least one violent altercation was caught on camera. ABC's Morgan Norwood has the story.
Turbulence after takeoff. Cell phone video capturing this throwdown between two men as they deboarded a Frontier Airlines flight in Miami. The number of air rage incidents skyrocketing. Last week was the worst since the summer began, with 150 reports involving unruly passengers. This week, the Federal Aviation Administration announcing nearly 100 more incidents.
Almost every single person who's coming to the door of our airplane is a first-time flyer. If they had flown regularly before, the procedures are different today. So flight attendants have a lot of work to do every single day on every single flight.
This year alone, airlines reporting more than 3,000 incidents of in-flight fights. More than 2,000 of those incidents involving passengers refusing to comply with federal mask mandates. But the bad behavior begins often before boarding, officials say. TSA officers also seeing an alarming uptick in assaults. The number of attacks up by 40% since May, and 85 of them happening just this year, including reports of passengers pushing and even biting TSA officers.
We've had a passenger recently who one of the pre-checked lanes were closed due to short staff, and he became a little irate and threw a bin and hit one of the officers in the face. They shouldn't have to go through this.
TSA continuing to thwart threats. The agency says it's detecting firearms on passengers and in carry-on luggage at an alarming rate. As of early July, more than 2,800 firearms found just this year alone. 85% were loaded. And the FAA continues to impose its zero tolerance policy when it comes to unruly passengers, imposing fines up to $52,000 per incident. For guns, the fines start at $10,000. Lindsay?
Morgan, thank you. To the classroom now, as many parents worry about COVID in schools this upcoming school year. We're getting an inside look at what researchers are doing to track just how droplets spread through the air, and an experiment that could make a big difference. ABC's Trevor Ault has more.
Plexiglass and social distancing. They've become a common sight in the classroom.
Does this go right?
More kids return to in-person learning this fall. Researchers are taking a closer look at the air in schools.
This is where the tubing for the simulator.
GMA got an exclusive look at testing by the Mayo Clinic and the University of Minnesota at the Well Living Lab to examine portable air purification units and whether they can provide an added layer of protection to help control the spread of aerosol droplets in a classroom setting.
What will these findings be able to do for schools as they prepare to safely bring their kids back?
I think it just provides another layer of security for people.
A team of more than 20 researchers built this experimental classroom, rigging up a mannequin in the center to spray out neon-colored solution like this in order to mimic how a sick student might spread particles as they breathe. They then painstakingly measured what collected on 70 surfaces all over the room, desks, chairs, even iPads, to see how the droplets spread with and without air purification.
We're able to say, okay, at each point in the room, how quickly are particles depositing onto different surfaces?
This heat map shows the classroom with 3 air purifiers. The red hot spot of virus surrounding a student, the colored areas showing where air purification units were removing particles from the room.
Air purifier filters, we see a reduction everywhere. So that's why you see the blue and the green are much lower concentration.
That would be more your proof of the effectiveness of the air purifiers.
Yep.
And the researchers have found using portable air purifiers to supplement a classroom's HVAC system may result in up to 5 times lower particle concentration in the air, improving air quality throughout the room, not just near the units. And a CDC study from earlier this month has found similar results. The agency now recommending schools should filter and or clean the air in the school by improving the level of filtration as much as possible.
Should concerned parents be put somewhat at ease over the findings of this?
I think so. I think they should be put at ease in the sense that we have solutions available. There's a lot of information that is now available to school administrators, and they should be comfortable with the fact that they're looking into it, and hopefully we'll be able to implement these solutions.
So good to know. At least there are some solutions. Our thanks to Trevor Alt for that. And we turn now to the incredible story of the astronomical rise and epic unraveling of the communal workspace company WeWork, along with its charismatic founder and former CEO Adam Neumann. The company was one of the hottest startups in history. Then it plunged from nearly $50 billion in value to basically worthless in just 6 weeks. Joining us tonight are Wall Street Journal reporters Elliot Brown and Maureen Farrell, authors of the just-released book, The Cult of WeWork, Adam Neumann, and the Great Startup Delusion. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for having us.
So the company WeWork provides office space to remote workers and businesses, but at its height, it professed to be so much more. And with the support of investors and venture capitalists, it was once valued at $47 billion. What was the appeal before things went so sideways?
I'll start. It had the CEO just had this magic quality of being able to, I like to say he taught investors to look at a pigeon and see a swan. And he had a real estate company, but was able to, what was very clearly an office space leasing company, but he was able to convince the investment world and some smart names there that it was a disruptive tech company that should be considered like Uber and Airbnb. But that makes it an extremely different and less valuable company if it's a real estate business as opposed to a tech business.
Look at a pigeon, but see a swan. Love that analogy there. Maureen, next one for you. You've talked about WeWork being an example of too much money and no guardrails. Can you explain that?
Sure. So there's this system. There was so much private capital out there that was, being the types that's in your retirement funds, like at Fidelity and T. Rowe Price. They were suddenly getting into this private market game, putting money in, searching for the next Facebook or Google. So Adam Neumann, part of his mastery at fundraising was really convincing people that he was going to build this next giant tech company. So investors were racing to give him money. I mean, he ultimately raised more than $10 billion. And investors were so scared. I mean, we talk a lot in the book about FOMO, the fear of missing out. He would just tell them, if you want to if you don't want to let me take money out of the company in this round and sell shares, then you can't be in the round. It's fine. I have plenty of people waiting to put money in. Every step of the way, that was part of his fundraising, and it kept guardrails from ever coming up.
But it worked for a short amount of time, I guess, in the long run. You guys also write a lot about Adam Neumann's excessive, over-the-top lifestyle. What were some examples of that?
He would have this lifestyle where he had 8 homes, he and his wife did. The summer before everything fell apart, they also rented 3 other additional Airbnbs in the Hamptons where their staff stayed. They had this entourage that included a surf coach, the surf coach's family, the surf coach's nannies, the hairdresser. So there's a lot that way. And they, he loved private jets. He loved surfing. He would go to the Maldives. There were yachts. So there was not a lack of spending in his life.
And Maureen, what can we learn from what happened with WeWork with regard to startups and the cult of personality, people like Elizabeth Holmes and Adam Neumann, people who are built up to be something that they may not be?
Basically, there is this cult around founders, and it makes investors and so many other people who should really be advisors to these people instead just let them have an incredibly long leash. It's almost like sanctioned recklessness. So I think there just has to be, red flags are red flags. If a founder takes out money out of the company when other investors can't, sell shares, is buying homes like this, And there are other corporate governance practices that, their red flags are red flags. And I think investors in both of these companies were willing to overlook them for the promises that these people made.
And Elliot, last one for you. Adam Newman is no longer in charge. WeWork is hoping now for a second act. What does that look like? And what's the lasting impact of this company on the real estate industry?
Yeah, so after everything sort of fell apart in 2019, they were left with a lot less value, but they did have a lot of office space. So now, because of the pandemic, they have a lot of empty office space. But, their hope is that as everyone goes back to the office, the world will sort of shift to this type of office space they offer, which is, and it's a little boring, but it's flexible. So you sign a 1-year lease or a month lease instead of a 10-year lease. And the hope is that a lot of companies will want that because who knows what's happening post-pandemic.
Elliot Brown, Maureen Farrell, we thank you so much for your time. The Cult of We is available wherever books are sold.
Thank you.
And still to come, the golden toilets found in one police officer's home will explain why and the trouble he's now in.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. Good Morning America, #1 in the morning, 9 years running. World News Tonight with David Muir, #1 in the evening with America's most watched newscast. 2020, the #1 news magazine on Friday nights. The View, the #1 daytime talk show. And ABC News Live, #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Hug you. Yeah. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Welcome back. We're tracking several international headlines at this hour. Haiti's chief of police announced that 3 Haitian police officers suspected of having a role in the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse have been arrested. A total of 26 people are now in custody in connection with the death of Moïse. The chief did not offer additional details on the roles that the officers may have played. The president's funeral is scheduled to take place on Friday. Gilded walls and golden toilets. That's what Russian investigators found in the home of the ringleader of a criminal gang they say they busted on Tuesday. The group, headed by a traffic police colonel, allegedly took the Russian equivalent of $255,000 in bribes and issued permits to grain cargo transporters, allowing them to flout laws and police checkpoints. Investigators seized piles of cash and that ornate mansion. And you're watching the moment a rat caused an uproar during a parliament session in Sevilla, Spain. Lawmakers gasped and ran from their seats as they were getting ready to appoint a new senator. Luckily, the situation was ultimately brought under control, and the politicians were finally able to finish the vote. Witnesses told the press that the rodent was quite large. Can't say I blame them for trying to get out of Dodge there. Finally tonight, a reboot of a beloved classic, Turner and Hooch. The new version is a Disney Plus series starring Josh Peck, who sat down with our Ariel Reshef.
I see him. I'm in pursuit.
It's the spin-off of the iconic movie Turner and Hooch.
Why is there a dog in the office?
It's a long story, sir. It's a continuation of the 1989 film, so not to worry, people. We're not messing with your memories. We're not doing a remake of your favorite 80s classic, but we are sort of taking all the great elements of the original film and introducing them to a new audience.
This is huge.
In the new namesake Disney Plus series, Josh Peck stars as Scott Turner Jr., son of Scott Turner, played by Oscar winner Tom Hanks in the 1989 classic.
The premiere was equally funny and emotional and touching. Can you tell us a little bit about what viewers can expect?
If you're into the who's the new bad guy of the week sort of action adventure aspect, you're covered. If you want a rom-com, love triangle, you've got that. You've got physical comedy, really cute animals. So I truly feel like everyone in the family is covered.
For Peck, it was no easy feat keeping a tight leash on his four-legged castmate.
What was it like working with a Mastiff as your co-star?
Well, not only was it one French Mastiff, but it was 5 different French Mastiffs playing our hooch. And he was good at bringing chaos to my character's life and my real life. But you just easily fall in love with these dogs.
Peck says he drew real-life inspiration for his role, riding along with U.S. Marshals.
We would show up for like a case, and there's 10 sort of like of these really tough federal law enforcement people and Josh Peck. It felt weird. I'm sure I stuck out a little bit. I was like, can I get a walkie-talkie or something?
Did you identify with your character?
Let me be honest, because where else would I be honest but GMA? I don't like dust. When you meet me, I'm Scott Turner Jr. I have a very sort of linear outlook on life. My apartment is obsessively clean. My best friend is a Roomba, and I'm a career man.
And becoming a dad to his 2-year-old son, Max, helped him lean into the fun and emotion of the series.
It feels like all my emotions are right on the surface, and it like deepened my humanity having a kid. Dear Scotty, I'm reading this letter in one of the scenes from my father who had passed away, and it just felt so easy to be moved by the writing and the reality of the scene.
Our thanks to Ariel for that. That is our show for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward fact.